I've coined a word, a linguistic explanation. You're right to home in on shame, because that's part of it. They're so ashamed that they've started this fire that they want to shoot the fire brigade to kind of bury the evidence, But I've coined a word which I use as a philosopher, which is Sophiaphobia. Sophiaphobia is a medical condition that is the fear of knowledge, the fear of wisdom.
That's brilliant.
If people suffer from Sophiaphobia, and millions do, sadly, it can happen to institutions as a sociological thing. Knowledge is suppressed because it's that, I don't want to know. No, don't tell me that I'll have responsibility.
Good grief.
So I've just finished a commentary. I'm a philosopher of religions. I've just finished a commentary 10 years in the making on the Gospel of Matthew. And, Sophiaphobia is what crucified. I mean, you can see it as the plot line develops in Matthew. You can see it in all the great philosophical and religious texts. So we talk about philosophy, which is the love of wisdom. I have a PhD. I love wisdom. But the counterforce is Sophiaphobia. People hate wisdom, and they kill teachers. It's amazing you haven't been shot yet, James, because you're a wise guy. And
careful, my wife might be listening.
The Sophiaphobes will be coming for you,
Well, I don't think I'm important enough. But
No. Anyway, that's my offering.
I'm not going to let you go. That's brilliant. I've written that down. I've got Sophiaphobia on my list. I'm looking forward to the word that describes the...
I've got a book that I'll send you,
Do. What I want to ask you before you go, though, is something that I picked up again yesterday, and it's very closely linked, I think, to your Sophiaphobia.
Right.
This attempt to claim that educational opportunities are a middle-class obsession.
Oh, my God.
I find that so depressing. The idea that only middle-class people want their children's horizons to be broadened, or want their children to be educated, or want their children to have freedom of mobility. It's a middle-class thing. That is, for an academic like you, that must be a terrible thing to witness.
Well, I mean, I think the attack on the middle class is unconscionable, to use the word you just used. I find myself using that word more and more now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the middle class. We made this country great in its, we were the guys that did the inventions that got the ideas from the ivory tower into the technology that ran the railways and all the rest of it, and created the internet. I mean, the middle class in any society are the backbone. The attacks on the middle class come from the elites, the elite toffs that just don't want anybody to be
billionaire
educated.
media owners and the public school educated spivs. Well, the thing that worries me most about it is the message it sends to people about their own children, if they're not middle class, is that you shouldn't be aspiring to higher levels of education. You shouldn't be aspiring to qualification. Matthew wants to know what your book is called, Thomas.
It's called Sophiaphobia.
Oh, that's the actual title.
Just Google it. Yeah, that's the title
Fantastic.
of the book. Yeah,
well, I look forward to getting hold of that. And thank you for both.
Keep up the great work, James.
I shall do my best, albeit that I have your worries ringing in my ears now as much as your compliments.
I just want to say, I think you're completely wrong, mate. I think, you're going in on Johnson and Patel and everyone you mentioned. It's not their fault. It's not their fault at all that, we had our toaster replaced with a breeze block. It's Labour. It's always been Labour. They started as Remain, and then they started trying to bring down, they tried to make the Brexit deal worse for us because Labour are anti-UK. I can't keep it up anymore, but that's what people...
You had me. You had me for a minute. You did. Because I get...
That's what people in my area think, James.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought I'm going to struggle with this one because I've not heard such unmitigated mince in a long time, and I do this for a living.
I hear it all the time, James,
I know you do. I see it on social media. I see it in Idiot's Corner. I get my messages coming in. I don't think people in real life ring me anymore with the position that Brexit could have gone brilliantly if it wasn't for the Labour Party, right?
I think for your mental health, mate, that's a good idea.
It's a bit late for that. But that's the nutshell. It could all have gone brilliantly if it wasn't for those pesky kids from Labour.
Well, this is it, and now the same people are saying, "Well, Labour's at it again." They're trying to bring us closer to the EU. They're trying to reverse Brexit. They're trying to, they're trying to go against the will of the people, and that's the opinion that is held down here. And I think at least here.
Is that a baby? Is that a baby that you've got with you there, or is it an unspecified mammal?
It's my little boy. He's 9.5 months old.
Beautiful sound. One of the most beautiful sounds in the world, isn't it?
I know.
That's completely done me now. Even if you'd been telling the truth. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, that's what you need to do if you want to ring in holding Ben's position sincerely, is just have a little baby with you, and it will melt my heart so much that I won't... Oh, he's off again. I won't be able to give you the kicking that you so richly deserve. Oh, that was lovely. Do you try and discuss things with these people? Do you ask them, hang on, if the deal was ruined by Labour, why are you cross that they're undoing it, for example? Might be one question you could ask.
Because they believe the lies that are being spread again. They believe the 80 million people lie, and it's just they don't want to listen to facts and logic. They just want to believe what they want to believe.
And that is the problem. So fear-phobia, almost, which
I've been racking my brain for years trying to figure out what caused it. And I think this morning you sort of hit the nail on the head, and it's shame and it's embarrassment.
It has to be.
And I think they can't admit they were lied to, and they can't admit they were wrong. They've got to double down and hope it works out this time.
And who else are you going to blame for the fact that this unachievable dream hasn't been achieved? You're not going to blame yourself for dreaming. You're going to blame people for frustrating it, aren't you? You have
exactly.
to. Do you think it will work? I know it's going to work because the constituency you described, both literally in Skegness and nationally, more broadly, obviously exist, and they're not going anywhere. You call them Farage's base, I suppose. But do you think that they're going to be big enough that enough people will join in with the reigniting of the flames to turn the country back into a Brexit-obsessed bin fire?
I can only hope not. I mean,
me
my own family part of that base, and that's the problem I face every day. Is we try and keep politics out of the conversation because I'm the only one that believes what I believe. But
well, you're the only one that relies on facts and evidence to form your opinions and your beliefs, as opposed to some of the characters that we've been talking about today and the lies that they've been spouting in some cases for decades. But what if they have got a vision? It's just that we live in a country, as that last clip I played demonstrated, where the media is so completely bent that we're never going to get a clear picture of whether or not a politician who's not from the further fringes of the right wing has got a vision or not. We live in a country where almost every newspaper, including the one that character writes for, could present Liz Truss to us as the answer to all of our problems, and then 2 months later pretend that they'd never done so. So what if the Labour government are actually quite good, but we just can't see it for all the noise?
Well, actually, I do think many of the individuals do have a vision, but, our party political system is not allowing these people to actually come through. And then, of course, the leaders, or the leaders such as they are, really have to always be listening out for what, some of these newspapers are doing. And the newspapers, after all, aren't democratic. So, we really need to get our democracy sorted out.
Gosh, well, that's quite a to-do list for what did you do in the referendum, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I'm ashamed to say, please don't tell me off. And that's why I'm saying why leadership is so important and vision. Ashamed to say I didn't understand these issues, and in particular, on trade, and because we kept being bamboozled with all the bureaucracy, and okay, there was a lot of bureaucracy in Brussels and so on, but I couldn't understand the issues. I really couldn't. But we didn't have the leaders who really could explain, what all the true benefits and risks of, remaining or leaving. And also, of course, we had people like David Owen, who I always really respected.
Yes.
And he was very much on the Leave side of things.
Was he?
So, yes, he was.
Good Lord, I missed that. What about Michael Heseltine? Why couldn't you listen to him?
Well, I did, but if we had real leadership and they could really explain it to the likes of me who didn't understand all these big issues, and I repeat, on the trade and on the economy and that side of things, if we had leaders I could really believe in and had vision, then honestly, what I would have done, I'd have voted according to how that leader would have guided us, because I would have felt that I could trust them, but I couldn't trust any of them, and it just turned me off.
Yeah, Richard suggests that you should check Ed Davey out if you're looking for vision.
He's a good chap, especially on the social care.
Yeah.
But look what happened. He ignored Alan Bates, didn't he, on the Horizon IT system?
Well, I've spoken to him about that, and the idea that it would have reached his desk and then been screwed up and thrown away is a little bit unfair. But I think he'd be the first to admit that he could have done more. You're letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, perhaps. I mean, who would be the infallible politician to whom we could all turn in times of trouble?
How about Darren Jones for Prime Minister, or David Lammy?
Okay.
I
Peter
support both
Kyle,
of
I
those.
keep hearing Peter Kyle keeps getting a bit of a nod. Carol Vorderman, no less. St. Carol of Vorderman suggested Peter Kyle for that gig, which speaks to a certain disillusionment with Keir Starmer, despite the events of this week. We will see.
I think the reason why we won't get fooled again, to quote the lyrics, is the fact that there's been that buyer's remorse. It's been like the people who bought those tickets for those god-awful Christmas fairs and you turn up as a theme park.
Yes.
You open the door and there's nothing there. Now, that works on two levels for me as to why I don't think, why it will work again. Directly, people have seen that the nonsense they were told that wouldn't happen 9 years ago has happened. So I just jotted some of these things down. Really simple things that make a massive difference for people's life. Mobile roaming, okay?
Yeah.
Pets travel. Just moving around, taking your beloved pets. Using an e-gate, not getting off the plane, walking to arrivals and thinking, oh my God, look at the queue. Dover Port, every summer and bank holiday and school holiday. Lorries on the A23, whatever the road is down there, Operation Stack. These are tangible things that people have seen that no one said would happen. In fact, the opposite. David Davis said, wasn't it?
Yeah, none of it will happen.
Knocking on our doors to arrange a deal. The Italians will be selling Prosecco. The Germans will be selling Mercedes. So on one tangible level, people have seen it was nonsense. And people have seen the negative effects of what they were promised wouldn't happen. They've opened the door into that theme park, and there's a man dressed as Harry Potter who's 65 years old with a beard
And a pipe. But the
pipe.
But you heard Ben. Ben opened up very cleverly, defending a position that he doesn't hold himself, but which plenty of people do. The reason why I haven't got my unicorn, Murray, the reason why I haven't got my promised land is the fault of all the people that frustrated it. That's the second line of the story. And do you think that one might still hold?
No, because you've got to. This is another thing. I was going to ring in yesterday and speak to you about something. I think we have to come to terms with the fact that it's not quite like MAGA, because there's some very interesting differences between the UK and America, which is why we'll never go quite like that. There's a rump of people now who, whether it is for things that you quote in your books or whatever it is, people say, can never now admit that they were wrong. But those people will always be there. But the other people who may not be quite as influenced by what they've seen, they've smelt, they've touched at airports, getting their dogs through, whatever it is, e-gates. They're businesses now. People will be working. People who voted leave will be working for companies that have suffered in the last 8 years because of the nonsense of trading restrictions. Those people will now see when they go into work, they may get busier. They'll hear people saying, this is great now, we can now
not
trade.
necessarily. I mean, a lot of it's going to take quite a while to land. So then he's got another political problem, is in that it is all the things you describe are going to happen to varying degrees, but they might not happen quickly enough for his political fortunes or indeed for your theory to hold.
It's only got to land by July the 4th at the latest of 2029.
Yeah.
That's when it's got to land. So you've got, and this is why I think Sir Keir Starmer has done this very well, get all this done ASAP to give it as much time to land. And those people who are working, when you think about, the security of people's jobs will hopefully go up as and when they have more ability to trade. Interest rates, because the economy will hopefully get better because we can trade more, our GDP. There's going to come a point where the two opposition parties, who are going to be very pro-Brexit, they're actually going to have to tell people now, remember what we said would happen, didn't happen, and you had the effects of it. We're now going to ask you to go back to what you know doesn't happen, what you know doesn't work. We're going to ask you to go back and vote for something that made your business less secure, made your job less secure, made your family income less secure, made your interest rates less secure. Now, that's going to be a big ask for people. And I don't know if it's I don't know what, not analogy, what metaphor, whatever the expression uses. Do we use the Wizard of Oz when they pulled the curtain back? Do we use the Scooby-Doo amusement fair guy when you rip the mask off? But people have now seen it, James. People have seen on a very simplistic level how it didn't work out on any way what they were promised to do.
You're quite glass half full, aren't you?
I'm very positive. I knock on the door. I work, as an activist for the Labour Party. I knock on the door, and I come across people of two kinds. People who are quite sanguine about what's going on and keep their own opinions to themselves, and they're the people that I think will be the ones that need to see what changes will happen over the next 4 years. And I knock on the doors of people who, as soon as they can get the chance to get out the front door after I've finished or put a letter through or a poster through, to come out with a great bravado, tearing it up in front of me and throwing it in the bin. Actually, they normally throw it in their own garden, so they're littering their own garden. But they're the people that will never change, James, for many reasons. But I think the large percentage of population who did vote reform because they believed Gove, they believed David Davis as maybe possibly more sensible figures than the Farage followers or the Priti Patel followers. Even those that thought, God, I never realised David Davis would be this wrong. I never realised Gove would be this wrong.
That's interesting. Well, that explains why the Tories have been decimated. I mean, they in some of the polling now are down into fourth place, but it doesn't really explain why Farage's outfit is still surging.
Well, is it surging, or is it just we go back to this stage where we have people who are now almost had wedded themselves to reform, had wedded themselves to Brexit, and in their own group now, whenever they're asked, they can't be seen to be going back. Do we have the negative of shy Trumpers?
I don't know. You mean in opinion polling, you're going to say that you support him because he's really the only one left who looks like he's still punting Brexit nonsense, and you're not yet ready to admit you've made a mistake. But high 20s now, that's a lot of people to do that. And but you're right in many ways, and I enjoy your analysis. In a way, if you're going to be out knocking doors for Labour, you kind of have to be coming at it from the perspective that you're coming at it from. But it's clear that you speak sincerely and authentically, and it's strangely refreshing because, of course, that's a voice, that's a position you'll hardly ever see reflected in most of the UK media. Some YouGov polling in while we've been on air, 66% of the population would support the UK having a closer relationship with the EU. But remember, that doesn't mean rejoin. For whatever reasons, it doesn't matter what the reasons are, it doesn't mean the same as wanting to rejoin. 52% of Leave voters and 54% of Reform UK voters would support the UK having a closer relationship with the EU. That's why Murray's quite right to remind us of the timescale, because so much can change, and there's a coalition there that seems pretty close to unsustainable.